Memphis. Nothing but Memphis. Everywhere we go, it's Memphis.
Welcome to On the Bluff, a Bluff City Media audio podcast. Stepping up to the microphone are your hosts, Gabe and Christian Fowler. Now, let's get to the show.
Gabe, we're back with fancy headphones this week.
Yes, sir.
Something new every week.
Yeah, Kenny's got this thing so hooked up, man.
Yeah, can't complain at all. What's up? How's it going?
Man, I'm kicking it like FIFA. What do you got going?
Oh my gosh, dude, you're 27, not 57.
Okay, 57.
Yeah.
How's that 57?
I don't know. It's something Kenny would say.
No, that's definitely what a 13-year-old
That's what I was going to say. I sound like a Gen Zer.
Either
what are we
way,
doing?
You're either too old or too young.
So what's that? How was your weekend?
Good. Went to the quick transition got you. Yeah, it was good. Went to a wedding at the Pink Palace.
Where at?
Pink Palace.
Okay.
On Saturday night.
That's a good venue.
Me and my lady. Yeah.
Solid venue.
It was good. It was cool.
Yeah. We have a venue locked down, by the way. Do you care?
Yeah, of course we care.
September 30th. The Cadre downtown. Solid place. The
Cadre.
Very nice place.
Where's that at?
Right there by Rendezvous. So like
Gotcha.
right around the corner.
Gotcha. That'll be sweet.
Yeah, it'll be sweet.
Did you get bachelor trip? Anything nailed down?
So I think I finally have decided that I'm going to look. It could be Vegas. It could be wherever they decide to have an event. But I'm wanting to go to a UFC card.
Go March 4th.
Yeah, that's probably that's a stretch.
So
$800 a ticket or whatever.
Yeah, a little behind the scenes here.
Cyril and John.
Cyril and John, yeah. So me and my best friend, like huge John Jones fans, huge UFC fans, and
Do you love everything that comes with John? Do you like?
I mean, what do you mean? No, I mean I can't. I don't love cocaine.
Okay, I'm asking. Listen, I'm just asking.
I don't love hit and runs and cocaine. So
okay.
no, I guess
and
I don't.
Slamming your head into a cop car and
No,
it's crazy that incident where he slammed his head into a cop car. How is it that the cop car had more damage than him?
Because it's John.
He literally dented the cop car with his forehead.
Yeah, but we were together the night they announced the fight. Like we were hanging out, and I was like, "Dude, we got to go. Like no options.
Right?
We got to go." This dude has a trip. He just came back from Mexico. He's going to Chicago in February. He's going to Aruba in April or May. And so his wife was like, nah.
Is your friend the dude on the Dos Equis commercials?
No, he's not the most interesting man in the world. He's the lamest man in the world. But yeah, no, he was like
international travel.
He was like, if tickets are like $250 or less, we can go. And I was like, dude,
if you get
nosebleeds $350.
Yeah, I was just say if you get $250 or less, you're going to be standing.
There's not the cheapest.
They don't have standing room in It's T-Mobile, right?
I don't know if they have standing room, but the cheapest ticket available, I looked on like 10 different sites, was like $342, and it was.
See, but for me, I'll settle for a fight night. Like I don't need to.
Yeah, no, I'm with
named
you.
Card.
I'm ready for when they come back to Bridgestone.
Yeah,
so I can go.
So they've had Dallas has been on. They've done Dallas. They've done
what? Just recent? Like
yeah, I'm talking about like in the United States. They've done Dallas. The most recent one was in Brazil, right?
Yeah, they've done just overall. Like they do Houston, they do Dallas, they do somewhere in Florida.
But they don't Tampa.
Tampa.
They haven't done like a.
They haven't done Nashville since before COVID.
Right.
But fingers crossed. He said Dana White said they want like every fight night from the ones that are announced. I think up until like March or April, they want everyone after that to be outside of
I'm telling you, man, I wish somebody else was running the UFC so I could like even dive in and love it a little more. I love it. It's a great product. It really is, man. Yeah. But that guy.
Me and Kenny are dying.
What do y'all think about that new slap league?
Irony.
I don't know, man. And have you seen, like, how is it? Do they have rounds? I haven't, I just saw the video of the dude with like the full swole side of his face.
Why would you do that?
For money. That's why they do it.
There's no way.
They're making $2,000 a show, $2,000 to win.
I'm not getting slapped for $4K.
$2,000. That's it.
Well, are you getting slapped for $4K?
Let's talk about this. Like, if you're at the top of that sport, you're the best slapper. And do you want to be known as the best guy in the slap league? No. Yeah.
I mean, they do, but I would not want to be.
$2,000. $2,000.
Potentially
That's
4.
depressing, Kenny.
Yeah, that's bad. You made something already terrible much worse.
I love, I know when we start talking about mixed martial arts or anything UFC, Gabe's going to bring up the negativity on it because I know he's not a Dana White guy. Doesn't
Love
like
the product though.
But I like business-wise, I like the things that Dana White does. But man, the slap league ain't it, man. Like
No.
the slap league is not it for me. I don't get it.
$2,000 to win.
Yeah. No, that ain't it. All right. Well, a couple basketball games have happened since the last time we recorded.
Yes.
Wichita State on, what was it, last Thursday, I believe, and then Cincinnati on Sunday. Thoughts?
They've righted the ship in a lot of ways. I
Yeah.
feel good about where they're at, man. Like I after that Temple game, and by the way, the Temple win on the road with that last second shot by Kendrick Davis looks better now that they beat Houston.
Yeah.
But I think defensively they're a little more locked in. They covered the 3-point line against Cincinnati really well. And they handled both of those games just sort of from start to finish comfortably. And they were relaxed and they played within themselves, didn't turn the ball over too much, did some good things. So I feel as if they are back on track.
Yeah. Was that the best 2-game stretch of the season, you think? Not from quality necessarily, but just from like the product that was on the floor.
I think so.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. I think the Cincinnati game was arguably the best game they've played all year. The most complete game that they've played all year, both ends of the floor. And can we talk about Deandre Williams? Was named AAC Player of the Week, 29 and 15 against Wichita State and 26
and
8 against Cincinnati.
Mm-hmm.
And we, last week we were kind of like, DeAndre's been part of the inconsistencies. We were like, it's Kendrick Davis, and then everyone else is inconsistent. And Deandre Williams has had easily the best 2 games of his season, and kind of turned it around.
12-1 when he doesn't foul out, 2-4 when he fouls out.
Yeah, that's.
I mean, it's not that complicated when it comes to DeAndre. Like I have gotten to the point, and I've said this like the past 2 weeks. If you look in the minutes column and he's playing 33 plus minutes, you can go ahead and chalk it up as a W.
Yeah.
And people will talk about, okay, well, what's he doing scoring the ball? What's he doing rebounding? Is he playing good defense? I think all of that follows if he just plays within himself and stays on the floor. And it was kind of funny in that Cincinnati game. He didn't foul the entire game until 10 minutes left in the second half.
And
then he unloaded the clip going and foul. He ended up with 4 in that last 10 minutes, but he was on the floor for 35 minutes. Mm-hmm. I mean, if you see that on his stat sheet, chances are the Tigers had success.
Yeah. Did you kind of mentioned earlier that they've both been pretty comfortable, so you never felt like it could have went the other way against Cincinnati?
There was a moment when it was 50-50.
When they tied it at 50.
Where I was sitting there and I'm saying, okay, let's see what the Tigers do to respond. And they responded. They pulled away again.
Yep.
So
that was Kendrick Davis.
Yes.
That's when Kendrick Davis started to take over and play well and was just driving and getting fouled every time, and he hit a couple shots also. So,
but what we were talking about a week ago at this time was, okay, what are they going to do with rebounding? They seem to have figured it out. The last 2 games they've won in the rebounding department. And defensively, what are they going to do in covering the 3-point line? Cincinnati was a 36%, one of the best in the conference.
The best in the conference.
The best in the conference. 36% from 3, and in that first half held them to 1 for 13.
Yep.
And that's something in the past that we have grown accustomed to with the Penny Hardaway coach team, but this team this year hadn't neutralized the opponent's sort of best attribute yet. Like when Kendrick Davis was at SMU, the conversation going into those games was, okay, what are they going to do to neutralize Kendrick Davis? And generally speaking, they did.
They pretty much shut him down every time.
And it feels like against Cincinnati, they got back to that, and they have righted the ills that we thought were going to be lasting.
And I will say, and this is going to sound like kind of a shot, and it's not, but like Cincinnati is a good team, a solid team. Yeah. They don't really have a standout star player. Like Landers Nolly's their leading scorer, David DeJulius is.
I like Jeremiah Davenport.
I like
too.
Jeremiah Davenport. So they have good players.
Victor Larkin's pretty good too.
Yeah, he had a really good game, but they don't. You know what I mean? Like they don't have Kendrick David. Like they don't have a top tier player.
Like
in
each
the
game,
American.
it'll be a different guy.
Exactly. Which
scoring
I
most
mean, you
points.
can win that. I'm not saying you can't win that way. They have been a solid team for the majority of the year, but they didn't have like that standout guy that Memphis had to lock down. And like you mentioned, going 1 of 13 from 3 in the first half, they did get some open looks, but they just couldn't hit anything. And then I think if you're watching that game, you kind of feel like you're going to have to weather the storm at some point because they're not going to go 2 of 26 for the game. And they did hit a few in the second half, knotted it up at 50. And then, like we talked about, Memphis responded really well. So that was the only a little bit of hesitant moment of like, oh, is this going to flip the other way?
But 6 for 24, you can say, okay, Cincinnati had a tough game shooting the 3 ball. I thought the Tigers did a better job of playing their damn man and stopping with the over-helping and stop. They did a better job closing out and covering the 3-point line, and that's what happens. You hold a team that's 36% shooting to 25.
Yep.
And that's how you win ball games.
Yep, completely agree. So what is it? Like, what are we seeing that's making this happen? Like, why is Memphis looking smooth? Like, what is the key to it?
I think it's getting used to who you're playing with. And I think the rotations are controlled. And Penny's done a good job with that. And it's just you can tell those guys have a response to them because they know this is their last go and they don't want to keep dealing with the same problems that they've been dealing with when they're losing ball games, when they're playing really close with Temple, when they're losing to Tulane, when they're losing late to UCF. They don't want to keep dealing with those issues. So it feels like they and obviously I haven't been at practice, so I can't fully speak on this, but it feels like they're locking in and doing the things that they know are shortcomings in their game.
Yeah. And I think Kenny pointed this out to me that Keontae and Elijah McCadden are kind of the engine that makes his team move. Like, obviously, it's been said ad nauseum. Kendrick and Deandre, we all know that. Like, let's get that out of the way for the 3,000th time. But, like, Elijah and Keontae are very important pieces on this team. And when they play well, when they play fast, when they play good defensively, and when they hit shots when needed, because Memphis doesn't need them to take 10 to 15 shots a game. They need 6 to 8 shots maybe from both of them, and they need them to be efficient. And when they are and they're playing good defense, that's when Memphis looks like they're a much better team.
And those guys are helpful with rebounding and distributing, and they've done a good job with that. And the only shortcoming right now that's very glaring, like Victor Larkin had 22 and 10, they need Malco back in a big way. And like I know the positivity that was around KO in the preseason, 7 foot or 6'11", whatever he is, long, can block shots. He's athletic. He can touch the top of the backboard when he jumps up.
Yeah.
He doesn't provide enough
enforcer
when it comes to being an enforcer and playing the opposing teams big and rebounding too. I mean, you have guards, Keontae, Kendrick, Elijah, out rebounding him consistently on the floor. And I know there was a point especially in that second half of the UCF game, because I thought that was probably KO's best, some of the best minutes he's played all year. There was some frustration from the fan base talking about, well, why isn't he out there for the second half? Penny gave his explanation. It was like, oh, okay, they were playing smaller. They had guards out there. We didn't think that he fit. But KO's got to provide more in the way of being a traditional big man if he wants to get extended minutes. And I don't blame Penny for starting him for 5 minutes and then pulling him out and not playing him. Like, until he shows the ability to consistently be a force, to be strong, to play big, I don't know if those minutes are going to be there for him.
Yeah, and I will say part of the Victor Larkin stuff, Penny said it after the game that it was part of the game plan. It was understanding personnel. And actually, me and Kenny jumped on the phone as soon as the game ended. And I was like, the one big thing obviously was Victor Larkin just having his way down low, but it looked like they were kind of doing it on purpose.
Let him. It was almost let him.
And Kenny was like, that's what I think too. I think they were just trying to funnel everything to him. And then, Penny kind of confirmed that. And it makes sense because, as we've mentioned, Cincinnati is the #1 3-point shooting team in the American. That's the way they want to play. They want to shoot a lot. They've got a lot of guys that can shoot from the perimeter. They're not afraid to shoot 33s in a game. And so neutralizing that, and making them use Victor Locken, who's solid but nothing spectacular, it worked.
Yeah.
It didn't look optically. It didn't look good because you got.
It's like, do you have anybody who can stop this damn guy? Like, you have that question at some point.
But when you look at it, like they were doubling him with guards and letting Deandre play on the perimeter.
Yeah,
like they were switching and letting Deandre get on the perimeter and then doubling him with guards and being okay with that. Like Deandre wasn't fighting back to switch. It was like, if you get out on the perimeter, you're fine, and we'll crash down low on him.
Yep.
So that I get it, and I thought the same thing. Like that's definitely looks like a negative thing, but I don't necessarily think it's that bad.
And let's be honest, we came into this season knowing that they were light. They didn't have depth in the front court.
Right.
Like,
and they're not going to run into many Victor Lockens, like guys with that size.
Especially in conference.
Right.
Especially in conference.
Right.
I mean, that's down the road, tournament time, that type of thing. But and if they see Cincinnati, when they see Cincinnati again, whatever it may be. But no, they're not going to see bigs that have that type of ability and dominance.
Size. Yeah. I do totally agree with you, though, with Malcolm Dandridge. Like, him missing has become more and more obvious that he was really filling a need for this team, like a big need.
And it sounds like he's doing 5-on-5s. He's back on the court and he's playing. It's just for him. And I mean, with the Grizzlies, we even talked about this, 2 years ago. Maybe not me and you, but just in general the city of Memphis talking about Jaren Jackson. It's always a ramp up. Right.
Yeah.
And that's what Malcolm Dandridge's career has been, is a full ramp up. He's just got to get his wind about him. And I think he'll be back out there on the floor, but it's always been a consistent, he's injured and he's got to get back used to things. Hopefully when he gets inserted back in there, he can make an immediate impact. We'll have to see.
Do we see the best version of Memphis with him on the floor?
Yes. I believe so.
I agree.
I really do.
He adds so much.
Yeah.
He adds so much when you need it. He may not play, 30 minutes a game, and he shouldn't play 30 minutes a game, but he's going to be pivotal when they are having issues down low, and when they are having issues rebounding, and when they are having issues stopping guards that are getting down low, whatever it may be. Like, Malcolm's not going to be scared to knock somebody down.
We can't sit here and act like Malcolm Dandridge has been the most consistent player throughout his career. We can't act like Malcolm Dandridge is the best big in the conference. We can't act like those things are going to come along, but he's the best this team has to offer in the front court. And besides Deandre Williams, and they need him out there if they want to unlock the best from this team. Now, the 3-point shooting got better, by the way. Remember last week I was talking about, and obviously against Wichita State, 11 for 21. I said that the shooting woes are going to continue, and they kind of did once they got into that game against Cincinnati, although it wasn't terrible. This team, at their best, can knock down some shots, but you don't know when that game's going to come.
You don't.
And I think also DeAndre taking more outside shots is something that might be necessary for this team. Yeah. Now, he's got that wonky release and that whole thing.
But it goes in.
But he has been, in these past two games, one of the more consistent guys from out there, and he needs to keep doing that.
Yeah, I think when we see DeAndre playing with the confidence that he has right now, he's a different animal. And they mentioned it on the broadcast for the entire time, like when he can keep his emotions under control. Every Memphis fan knows that. But when he's playing the game offensively with that kind of confidence, like he's knocking down baseline jumpers and knocking down threes, with good, tight defense on him, that's a different kind of DeAndre Williams. That's not just, vulturing points or just hanging out down low and waiting on rebounds and getting hustle points. No, that's him being a shot creator.
Yep.
And we have talked about that all season, that they have to have other shot creators. And for him to be able to do that in the past couple of games and create some shots and get some looks and hit some highly contested shots, that is a good sign.
And it feels like that's something that's been talked about at practice.
Yeah.
Like DeAndre, you have to be more assertive from mid-range, from the 3-point line. If you get something,
because he's never been an aggressive
be shot
shooter.
ready. Be shot ready.
Yeah.
You don't have to always get off the dribble and get to the rim. Try to be shot ready because you're one of the best guys when it comes down to it at going and finding looks. And it's kind of funny that he is because, again, the shot and how it goes up and the hitch, but that's been him. Now, we know that the Tigers have bought themselves a little wiggle room when it comes to the NCAA tournament and where they stand in bracketology. I think Joe Lunardi, as of today, has taken them off the bubble. So, like, beating Cincinnati put them hard into the tournament for him.
Where were they?
But how much they were in the last four buys. Okay. So they were right there they could have been last 4 in
Yeah.
if they lost that game.
Yeah.
But I guess the question would be, how much wiggle room do you think they bought themselves?
Not a ton.
15-5. That win could potentially be quad 1 if Cincinnati does good down the stretch of the conference season.
I mean, the thing that about the way the quads are set up is you are so reliant on what other teams do.
Yep.
And so that you don't know how much.
And A&M and Auburn have helped the Tigers so far.
They have helped the Tigers. Temple, for
Temple
at least
could-
the
yeah,
time being,
true.
has helped Memphis, and it's like
Tulane can get, well, they lost to Tulane, but Tulane
Right.
that loss could look a little better.
if they keep winning and playing well. So that part of it's tough to analyze because you never know what other teams are gonna do. I think they bought themselves a fair amount. I think they're in a much better position than they were a week ago.
Right, but then it comes down to
because what were they in the conference last week? 5th or 6th?
5th or 6th,
and they're
tied.
second now.
They're second now.
Yeah,
But it comes down to, too, in this conference, and we've talked, for the 50,000th time, right? You can't step on those landmines. At home, you can't lose to SMU. You can't lose to Tulane at home. You can't go on the road to Tulsa, who has been a thorn in your side under Frank Haith, though.
Right.
And I think people need to – I've heard a lot of people talk about, well, Tulsa's been a thorn in the Tiger side. Well, when Frank Haith was
Right.
there, when he was
And
running that
they're not-
matchup zone.
yeah,
And
they're not good
They're
right
not
now.
good this year. But you can't afford those type of losses,
Yeah.
or you're back to square one.
is that the next 3?
But I think that there is wiggle room. In the end of the day, if you lose to UCF at home now on the 16th, that's not going to be a death blow. That's not going to be uncomfortable in the end of the day. Tigers right now, metric-wise, 37th in the net,
Yep.
32nd in KenPom. They're thought of highly still metric-wise. And I think the question now becomes, if they keep this going, they stay on this roll, get back Malcolm Dandridge, and they have a good conference season. Let's say they split with Houston, and they're second in conference, and they have a nice little run in the conference tournament. And obviously, I'm looking way ahead right now.
yeah.
Like, how high could that seed line be? And obviously, it depends on what everything else
What do you
happens
think?
around.
What do you think? 6, 7?
I think 7, 6, 7
Yeah.
is fair, but 7 seems right around that territory.
If they pretty much ran the table the rest
Yeah.
of the way out, maybe lost one to UCF or Cincinnati and lost one to Houston.
Yeah,
yeah.
I think that's fair.
I think historically the second place team in the AAC always gets the 8-9 seed.
Yeah.
Like if you look at that, which I hate. I don't want the 8-9 seed. But
Yeah, but
that's-
if this team only loses 7 games, it's gonna be hard to have them as
and
a
if they
9
beat
seed.
Houston once, and then Cincinnati turns to a quad 1 win, and A&M and Auburn,
See how many
you start
what
to get
ifs
to the
there are? My
no, it's a lot of what ifs. That's why I'm saying I'm
Right.
prefacing this by saying
Right.
we're looking way into the future. But that seed line, I feel like they're in a solid spot. And as long as they take care of what they need to take care of, they could get a pretty solid seed come tournament time.
I agree, because when you look at what's ahead, you mentioned the next 3 games. The next 2 are SMU and Tulsa.
Yeah,
They are a combined 12 and 26. like they.
Jankovic ain't he ain't in Dallas anymore.
He is
I'll
not.
tell you that.
He is not,
Good
clearly.
Lord.
But it's like, if you go take care of those teams, which I can't see Memphis losing to either one of those teams. They have been bad this year.
Right.
Of course, anything can happen. But like you take care of business in both of those games, riding a 4-game win streak in a Tulane at home, like you've got to be feeling good about where the team's at that
And what
point.
does the Cincinnati win on the road prove to you about what the Tigers can do against the best teams in this conference? They can beat them.
Yeah.
At home or away.
Handily.
Yeah. And obviously Temple beating Houston on their home court makes you feel better about that potential matchup.
Yeah, that's nuts. That's
And it's funny too, because you go look at the stats and like Temple shot worse than them. Shot like 31%.
Yeah.
Didn't shoot. I think they hit 2 more 3 balls, but the percentage was about the same. They turned the ball over more. Houston just had an awful day at the office. Like they were terrible.
just a bad day. So it can happen to anybody, obviously. But Memphis should be in a good position. Like this Wichita State Cincinnati stretch was big. I think obviously they were expected to beat Wichita State.
Cincinnati, they were
pretty easy, but they were only
dogs.
2.5 point. Were they dogs?
They were dogs.
2.5
point dogs.
Yeah. So that's a big one.
Yeah.
And that's
huge.
That's quad 2 right now, right?
Yeah.
And-
But here's the thing about Cincinnati. They're 81 in the net.
the
And they're
net.
going to play at Houston. Say they lose that game, they're not going to fall too far down the net. Then they're going to have a stretch of, South Florida and all these middle of the pack AAC teams. They start taking care of business. That net could go up into the top 75 relatively easily.
Yeah.
Because I still think that Cincinnati team's
Solid.
good.
Yeah, they're solid.
I think they're a good team.
Yep. Anything else Memphis basketball
Was
related?
that the worst? Was that the worst officiated game y'all seen
Man,
This year?
this year?
No.
not this year.
No. Absolutely not.
I'm trying to think, though.
I can't remember which one we were texting about during it.
I'll say this, though. No
It's-
matter
it
what
was
officiating...
it was the Tulane game. Remember, because that's when we did the pod on how bad college officiating was.
No matter what, though, when it comes to officiating in college basketball, block charge kicks their ass. They
dude.
get killed by block charge.
I think they
Oh,
just
my
guess. I think
Lord.
they just guess. They're
I
just
mean,
like,
well, it's so
I'm just gonna
inconsistent. Like,
point.
no, I've never seen a crew that is consistent with their block charge calls.
Never.
Ever.
Never.
It's so confusing. It's just literally 50-50.
Yeah, because you'll be watching it and you'll get a couple blocks in a row, and then you kind of get a feel for it as a spectator. Like, okay, you
Then here
feel-
comes a charge with a dude with his heel on the circle and his feet were moving the entire time. You're just
Yeah.
like, dude. Like,
Yeah,
I used to ref some basketball.
Come on,
I
man.
was at the AAU level. I ref some, AAU high school ball a little bit here in Memphis. And one of the things that I became very aware of is in the block charge calls, 90% of them are blocks.
yeah.
right.
Like, and you see in college basketball, 90% of them are called charges. Like, if a player gets knocked to the floor, they are getting the charge.
Well,
call.
hell, I don't even know if it's 90%, but it's up there. And I have resigned myself to the fact when it comes to college officiating that it's like,
You just kind of got to know what you're getting yourself into.
who gives a damn at this point? Because I'm
Yeah.
never going to be able to guess.
No, you're never going to figure it out. You just kind of got to ride the wave and see what they're going to
roll
call.
with the punches.
So you were in San Diego when we did our podcast about college officiating, and one of the questions we, I asked Christian, and we both kind of walked through this, is some rules changes that we feel like would enhance the college basketball game. In your opinion, you didn't get to be a part of that conversation, but Gabe, what are some rules changes that you would say would help college basketball become a more palatable thing?
I don't know exactly what I would say, but I just think guidelines when it comes to block charge would be a lot more like just a little more strict on the guidelines, so it's not just a straight judgment call.
Yeah.
That's the only issue I have.
I mean, was that technical foul on Kendrick Davis though?
That
Not one of the
yeah.
craziest things you've ever seen.
I get so
That
lost, man.
that was rough.
Yeah, they say he kicked out his leg basically or whatever and tried to draw.
Well, he said he just flopped to the floor when it's clear.
I don't think they need to officiate. I don't think they need to take it upon themselves to make that type of call, right?
that judgment.
That type of judgment, right? At some point, just let that go. If you're gonna call it a foul, call it a foul.
Right.
But I don't know if that should rise to a damn technical.
Yeah, that one's a head scratcher.
It's always head scratching. Just watching any college basketball game, but I let it go. Like seriously, because you could come in after every single game and talk
And just
about
blast reps.
5 to 10 foul calls. Like what the hell was that?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Definitely.
I told Christian a couple weeks ago that if I didn't cover the University of Memphis Tigers, I probably wouldn't watch a whole lot of college basketball. It is just almost the rules and the officiating has just taken very talented players and just turned it into the most
Plotting game.
plotting, ugly, just start and stop experience. And it's just not pleasant at all.
So you're not a Big Ten basketball fan?
I am not.
So you know those 48 to 47 games that Wisconsin plays against Purdue. You're not into that.
I mean, listen, I'm a big Zach Edey fan. Shout out Trey Draper. But
Yeah, right.
no, man, I'm good. I'm good on that.
Yeah.
So there's that.
Yeah.
There's that. But yeah, block charge kicks their tails
Every time.
every damn time.
Any other basketball? We got anything else on basketball you want to talk about?
I think we're
You
good.
Feel good?
Compared to a week ago, you should feel a lot different.
Yeah, that's what we kind of learned doing a weekly show is that things change
Things
quickly.
change. Speaking of which,
Yeah,
more Tiger football news. Good for the positive. We got our kicker.
yeah.
We got our kicker that I was talking about last week.
They've that's what you said. The one thing left is a kicker.
Well, I wouldldn't say one thing, but
I'm pretty sure that's
it was
what you
important
said.
to go get a damn kicker. I
Yeah.
mean, you need one. That's
Yeah.
your special team sort of hinges on that fact.
Yeah,
We saw that 2 years ago versus Chris Howard last year. Alex Rayner from Georgia Southern.
yeah,
What we think? Just very solid.
yeah. Nothing special. Just
puts it through the uprights
to make kicks and
extra points, 95%.
Hit your extra points and make field goals inside of 40 yards, and you pretty much got a job in college.
Yeah.
That extra point conversation sounds a little bit bitter, Christian. What's going on?
Yeah, are you good? There? You good over there, Brett Maher?
I'm good. We survived the game that we missed 4 in.
That first extra point that Maher put up, my God, they called it a block. That would have been 15 yards to the left.
It was going so left.
Buddy literally kicked that. I don't even know how he did that.
I don't either.
I mean, that's
because if he would,
Gronk is going to do one at the Super Bowl, right? And that I don't
know. I've seen the
apparently Gronk's going to do one at halftime. I think at the Super Bowl or whatever, Pro Bowl. I don't forget what it is. I bet Gronk probably hits the ball a little better than that on that first.
Yeah, because if he hits that right, it doesn't even get blocked.
It literally rotated sideways.
It was going left. But anyway.
So you don't want to talk about that?
Well, we'll get to that.
Okay.
We'll get to that eventually, and everybody can make fun of me on that. So we don't have to do it twice. But
and then also Corey Gamage, wide receiver.
Corey Gamage,
yeah,
really like that pickup.
That's awesome. But you had to rebuild that wide receiver room.
Well, that's what we've been saying. One more. They need one more.
Just keep going.
At least one.
And now
more.
you added to Joe Skates and Rock Taylor.
Yep.
And you're gonna have Demir Blankumsey. You're gonna have Tosky Dove, and now you add Corey Gamage to the fold. And by the way,
that's a big receiver room.
6'4", 220 pounds, and 2 years ago caught for 800. Last year caught for 750.
You know what he kind of reminds me of? Like, don't call me crazy. He's like the Walmart version of Quentin Johnston.
Okay. Walmart version. That's disrespectful.
No, I don't mean it in a disrespectful. Walmart version is probably not the right way to put it, but he's like Quentin Johnston light. How about that? That sounds nicer.
There you go. Yeah, come on, Walmart.
But like they're very similar.
They're
very similar in size, and like Corey Gamage is not like a stiff 6'4", 220 guy.
No.
Like he can move. He can catch a screen and go 50, 60 yards.
And he can go make plays. Good with jump balls, that type of thing.
Yeah.
And I just putting together that wide receiver room was going to be a challenge, and I think they've done about as good as they can. And to see two guys who had really good production at a slightly lower level, and I don't even know if I can really call it lower level. Sun Belt versus the new AAC.
It's a.
It's a little lesser.
It's a lower level,
and the MAC is lower level with Demir Blankumsey, but two guys that have a lot of production at those levels moving up. And I know a lot of people have like almost the negative connotation around dudes that are from the SEC who don't get their playing time and then they step down a level.
Right.
I think you should look at it very positively when you have dudes that rise up and end up at Memphis.
Here's my question. Does anybody that was on this team last year start at receiver this year? Or are those three guys your starters?
I would bet those three are your starters.
I agree.
I think two of the three are very movable and very like
Tosky and Corey.
Tosky and Demir, I think, can move sort of inside, outside, do that type of thing. Demir can be out of the slot. I would say Demir will
be primarily. I mean, I know he can play both, but primarily going to be if you got 6'3" and 6'4" on the outside.
Right. But I feel like at Toledo made a lot of good plays on the ball. Like he's a guy that you can move around a tad bit.
Agreed.
And then, we've seen Joe Skates and what he can do. He's got to be more consistent with catching the ball. Yeah, that's the biggest part for him. But he can get open, and he's a good deep threat. Rock is very steady, I think, with catching the ball. Intermediate guy.
Yeah.
If you can keep adding to that room, keep adding to that room. But
I agree.
This transfer portal class is as good as we've seen. I
don't think Memphis. I don't think Ryan Silverfield and the staff could do any better than they have. Truthfully, I don't. And we've talked about this a lot, but is Memphis going to be the favorite to win the American next year?
We'll see, man. That's a good question. Tulane still has everything coming back.
Do they have everything coming back?
Not the running back.
Well, besides Tajay Spears. But
Tajay Spears isn't coming back.
That's
quarterback.
Tajay Spears is their best player.
Well, he was offensive player of the year. I get that. Quarterback.
Michael Pratt's coming back.
Most of the offensive line, a lot of defensive players coming back. So we'll see. We'll see. But I wouldn't put it past the preseason media poll. Real talk. I mean, just based on roster construction. I mean,
because who is Tulane, UTSA, and Memphis?
UTSA is another one too. Frank Harris will be back.
That the top three?
I think so.
Yeah,
I think so.
And I think with everything Memphis is adding, I think they could be the biggest team in the American.
Yeah. I'm very,
which is wild because
and of
Memphis
course
is never a huge team.
That's my biggest. That's what I'm most excited for is just to see the size they have on both sides.
We should be able to tell like a sizable difference.
Yeah, 100%.
Like
100%.
you like okay, so like when Memphis plays Mississippi State,
They
Ole
won't
Miss.
look small.
Yeah, like no, I'm saying like in the past when Memphis has played Mississippi State or Ole Miss, like even though Memphis has gotten the better of both of those teams, like you can tell Memphis is smaller.
Yeah.
most of the time.
Yeah, when
Like,
they
every
play
time.
Mizzou in the Dome next year, it's not going to be just this big size difference.
I don't think it will. I don't think it will be either. I think they will look much different than they ever have. But
Yep.
going back to the receivers, I love what they've done. They had to. This room had to have a makeover. They couldn't just roll into the season with two guys that were, are talented but unproven. And now you've got some guys that have made a name for themselves in the college football landscape.
And I think also keep an eye on Catravion Hargrove to get some receiving work as well. That's a guy I think that they could split out and
Little TP role.
Find some different things in empty and other things that sort of get him involved. We'll see.
Yeah,
we'll see. But it feels like through the transfer portal, they've attacked one thing at a time, and wide receiver was sort of the biggest issue postseason, like immediately following the postseason. So it was the most recent a bunch of outgoing departures.
Right.
By the way, Eddie Lewis ended up at South Carolina. But it was the most recent outgoing departure, so they attacked that last. I don't know how much more work they have to do anywhere, but they'll probably get something done.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think you're at luxury ads at this point.
Yeah.
Truthfully. I think you filled every need that
Depth
you
adds.
have on the team. So, yes, you're just adding depth. And if you get, if somebody big that can come in and, obviously that's luxury picks. But I do like what they've done. I like the differences they have in the receivers. When you look at it on paper, like Demir being more probably a primary slot guy, but can line up outside.
Shakier.
Tosky Dove, more of a deep, intermediate to deep threat, like skinny post and pocos and cops and stuff like that.
And then Gamage, who's just
big
as hell. He's huge.
I want to say he's your traditional X, but he's not really your traditional X.
He's the DeMonte Coxey.
Right. He can be a traditional X, but he can also make plays in space. Right. So you've got a good balance of stuff. You don't just have the same guy at all three.
But he's an outside receiver. Like that's what you need to have. You need to have that different. I mean, you have to differentiate skill sets in that wide receiver core
and bounce.
And I think they've done that in a big way. I mean,
bounce guys around, be able to get matchups, not just have the same type of player at every receiver position. So I like the diversity they've added. I think it helps this offense tremendously, and we get to see Seth Hennigan with weapons again.
Yep.
Which
and a potentially massive offensive line in front of them.
Yeah.
Keep them upright a little bit better.
Yeah, it's.
But obviously, here, whenever we talk about projection and we talk about transfer portal and incoming recruits, it's always that. It's projection. So we have to see what these guys, how these guys fit in spring, how these guys fit in fall camp. But
it's fun to look at it right now.
Yeah, but I was just say based on some of the production we've seen from, especially in that receiver room and in the secondary with Simeon Blair, like there's some pretty confident projections you can make about where they fit in as starters and what they will look like going into next year.
Yeah, I will say I think they're pretty easily going to be a better team than they were this past season.
I think that's fair, and I also think the schedule will line up a little better because different AAC, right?
So interesting, very interesting. Excited for the football season already because I want, or at least for the spring, because I want to see what these guys. I want to see what they look like. Get that little behind the scenes look first of what they look like in person. What's up, guys? I'm so excited to announce that we have partnered with Coaching for Literacy, and you can read more about them at coachingforliteracy.org or follow them on social media at Coaching for Literacy. Your subscription to Bluff City NIL is 100% tax deductible because of our partnership together. Thank you for supporting Memphis Tigers student athletes and helping promote the monumental cause of childhood literacy. Kenny, I think we got a new segment, right?
Yep.
No.
Oh, yeah,
okay.
We got a new segment. Here we go, guys.
That's right.
Are you ready? Yeah.
What's the new segment?
It's called the Hot Three.
Okay.
All right. It is the 3 hottest topics from last week's sports world. All right. Looking forward to hearing y'all's input, y'all's thoughts into all this. So number one, obviously, we've kind of hit it and beaten around the bush a little bit this whole entire episode, but it was the NFL Divisional Playoffs, man. It was a good weekend of football. What are y'all's thoughts on the Giants versus the Eagles and the
It was a
Cowboys versus
okay, seriously.
The Niners.
Yeah. It was a disappointing divisional weekend. Like
okay, Cowboys.
No. I'm looking at this objectively.
Okay.
We'll get into Cowboys talk, but like Divisional weekend in the NFL is known as like the best weekend in football.
Right.
And it typically always delivers. And it just did not land.
I don't view it that way.
You don't? What do you think the best weekend in football is?
No. I think it's fine. I think you can call that the best weekend in football. Whatever. That's fine. Jags Chiefs thought was a pretty hotly contested game. Jags in the end of that game just fumbled away their opportunities and threw an interception, and they wasted 2 opportunities in the fourth and one close. And there was a little intrigue because now Patrick Mahomes is hurt, and you're following that storyline.
Yeah, but that's just kind of what the game became made about, though.
Right,
you know?
but Chad Henne changed that game on a dime when he went 98 yards down the field.
Yeah.
So I enjoyed it as a whole, man. And then
I mean,
Giants Eagles did fall flat, but it also showed that the Eagles are
legit
them,
and the Giants
and
were
Jalen
not.
Hurts is him, and Kenny Gainwell, by the way, is him. 12 rushes, 112 yards,
and a
TD.
tud. Yeah.
So like I even though that was a blowout and it fell flat, I like to see the number 1 seed in the NFC assert dominance before they get into a championship game against another good 49ers team. Like that's
typically
that means something to me.
At least 75% of the games were good, and we only got 2 good games.
Yeah.
Bengals Bills was not a good game.
But then there's another storyline with that where it's like the Bills,
but storylines are different than good games.
Okay, I
and there
understand
definitely
that.
is a storyline.
But to see Joe
Burrow, speaking of him, Joe Burrow.
Yes, Joe Burrow going into. I heard someone. I think it was Max Kellerman call him Snow Burrow, but I thought that was a little corny.
Yeah, that is
cool wordplay though. I guess if I would have thought of it, I would have.
You would have thought it was cool.
Thought I was pretty sweet for that. But anyways, going into a snowy situation in Buffalo and just whooping the hell out of them.
Yeah.
And I thought that was, even though 27-10, Bills were out of it in the fourth quarter, just you knew it was over. I thought that was fun to see the Bengals assert dominance like that. And also, on the other hand, we're going to have to talk about the Bills, man. They need to stop being so damn soft in the trenches.
Yeah.
They're going to die in every single playoff game they play deep into the playoffs.
Because they can't run the ball.
Because they can't run the ball, and defensive line-wise, they don't have enough up there to really beef up with anybody else.
When you think about it, because they've put so much draft capital into that defensive line.
But you think about these guys. Ed Oliver's smallish.
Yeah.
And that's tough. He's going to get run
AJ
off the
Epinesa.
ball. Jordan Phillips got hurt.
Yeah, but I'm talking about draft capital.
Right, yes, yes, Greg Rousseau. They have done
Boogie
that.
Basham.
Yes, but it's a lot of edges. They're edge heavy.
Edges and Ed Oliver, but I mean, that's a lot of capital.
But they spent a lot of draft capital on playmaking defensive linemen and not just the beefy dudes that on first, second, and third. First and second down that make it happen for you.
Nobody invests much draft capital into those guys unless you get a Jordan Davis.
Dexter Lawrence, solid with the Giants.
Yeah.
I think there's a need for those guys.
I agree. I think a 1 tech and a 3 tech is 2 of the most important positions in football.
Some guys, and I think that was the issue with the Cowboys. Defensively, they were great, but D tackle they had to go trade for Jonathan Hankins in the middle of the year. You have to have those guys, whether it's a free agent or spending draft capital on it. Maybe less on the draft capital, but go get somebody.
You got to have dudes that can stop the run.
that can ball for you in there. And
yeah, because Buffalo,
the Bills don't have that.
Buffalo got ran over at will by an extremely beat up offensive line.
Yes, and
extremely beat up offensive
bald. And that's sad, man. That's sad because the Bills were the Super Bowl favorite going into the year,
and for the majority of the year.
I just looked at the Bengals and I said, that's a better built team for the playoffs.
Yeah.
Josh Allen, we know his turnover woes and all those issues. But I feel like if they had a run game, that would sort of cut in half. That alleviate so much for him. He can't be your leading rusher every time out.
Yeah, I agree. He was off in that game though, as a passer too. He missed some pretty routine throws. Can I say this?
I don't think he was the issue. I don't think he was the issue.
I wouldn't say he was the issue, but he didn't have a Burrow or Mahomes type performance where he supermanned them. You know, where everyone else was off and he kind of lifted the team up. That didn't happen.
But and I know it's a lesser opponent, but Chiefs still won without Patrick Mahomes being in there and playing a
quarter,
playing well.
Yeah.
Right. He couldn't move around in the pocket. He didn't make those off schedule scramble drill throws that he
Had to
normally
throw
does.
a touchdown on one leg.
Yeah, like
He's nuts.
but the Chiefs, I think, have a good enough offensive line. Chris Jones on defensive line where they can get away with certain things, and they have a different mentality than what the Bills have. Bills don't have a plan B. If Josh Allen, like in playoff football, obviously running the ball and stopping the run, but if you have a positive, an overwhelming thing that you do well, what do you try to do if you're the opposing defense? You try to alleviate that and make sure that that doesn't get you, bite you.
Yeah.
And for the Bills, if you stop Josh Allen, you stop the Bills.
That's it.
So
That's the key.
if you keep everything in front of you, I mean, that's brutal stuff. And like the Bills, like those championship windows open and close fast.
Yeah.
So you got to get it figured out fast. Now,
Yep.
All right, sore subject.
Yep.
Before we move on, we'll be quick. It's fine.
Yeah.
Cowboys, 19-12.
Squandered it.
Dak,
every
Dak
opportunity.
was stinky in that game, brother.
Yeah, and the thing is that I don't think Dak is the biggest reason that we lost that game necessarily. I think just the overwhelming amount of mistakes as a team
Yes.
are the reason that we lost that game.
Can I say this too? I don't think Mike McCarthy should be taking as much smoke as he is right now.
I agree.
For some of the late game. The punt at the end, I was okay with. They should have gotten on the field quicker. But I was more incensed with that punt, 4th and 5 in the third quarter from the 49ers 40.
Yeah.
That punt you should be mad about. But even then, it was 9-9. You saw how the game was
Yeah,
going.
that one made sense.
Mike McCarthy should not be catching as much smoke as Dak and Dalton Schultz. And
Yeah.
like that's just... I
Agreed.
feel like it's low-hanging fruit that people want to pick apart and they want to push that button, game management. When in reality, I thought the game was
It was
managed fine.
I did too. But I mean, here's the things, right? So Kelvin Joseph forces a fumble on Ray McLeod on a punt, field goal.
Yeah, next to nothing out of it.
I think our next possession, or maybe two possessions later, or maybe I may be wrong here, but Dalton Schultz dropped one and CD dropped one. I can't remember if that was the field goal drive or if that was I think that might have been the 4th and 5 punt drive. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because that was the one where Dak hit CD for 45 to midfield and then it stalled out. Schultz drops
Not
one
a
on
good
first
thrown
down.
ball to CD, by the way.
No, it was
He
underthrown.
puts it out in front of him. It's
He
TD.
could, yeah. But Schultz runs it out on, I think, first down, hits him right in the hands for like 11 or 12 yards, drops it, and then Dak comes back with I think his best throw of the game, the one down the seam to CD. Fred Warner is a freak, by the way, an absolute freak. But the ball was perfect. It hit
Did you
CD
see
in the
the other
hands.
seam?
Huh?
See the
Oh
other
yeah,
seam?
yeah. T.Y. Hilton would have scored. But you got to understand the read. You got to understand the read as a quarterback, even if
He's throwing it at CD. I get that,
Right.
but damn, man.
Yeah, no, T.Y.
Ty would have walked into the end zone.
Yeah, agreed. But still, it hit him in
Here's
the
where
hands.
I'm at with
It hit him in the
Dak,
hands.
though,
Here,
man.
let me
Keep
finish
going. Going.
my spiel here. So those three, and then Trayvon Diggs drops the easiest pick of his career.
Yes, I'll agree with that.
And then holding touchdown.
Yeah. And then at the end of the game, Kevontae Turpin catches it inside the 10.
Right.
By the way, Dak
speaking of Kevontae Turpin, how did he not score that kick return?
he ran right into the kicker.
He goes
Right into the
anyway.
kicker.
If he breaks it left, he's gone. If he breaks it right, he's gone. But he ran right into the kicker.
It was a good return, though.
It
Gotta
was.
make something happen.
It
out
was,
of
but I'm just saying, like, those are things that lose you games.
So-
Dropping interceptions, dropping your first downs, big time penalties in big time situations, 3rd and 10 inside the red zone. All these things lead to losses.
I'm going to say this, and I feel pretty solid about this, and obviously it depends on what's surrounding him. I think, by the way, something became clear to me, evident to me once Tony went out, because, by the way, prayers up to Tony. I hope that he broke his left fibula, I believe. Hope that all works out for him, and he gets tagged, and just bad timing for all that to happen. But once he went out, I was sitting there like, why did they move on from Amari Cooper? This is a guy that they could have used. Another go-to guy for Dak to push the ball
That's
to. They
the
didn't
biggest
have that.
thing.
And Michael Gallup was nowhere to be found.
Yeah.
And I'll say this about Dak. I don't think if you're basing it off plays that he needs to go make, I don't think you can win a Super Bowl with Dak. If you're basing it off of that team they had this year with a solid running game, decent offensive line, I just don't think that you can go win a Super Bowl with him because I think he shrinks in the biggest moments.
I think he's got to have more weapons around him to amplify his game. if that makes sense.
Yes, I agree with that, but we've seen that, and it still didn't quite work out. He still makes some bonehead decision and shrinks in the moment.
You know how it is. You know how fluctuant the NFL is, depending on the team you got. Like, Dak's never had good defenses until the last 2 years, and last year's defense was pretty fake, and we all knew that.
This year's wasn't.
This year's, no. That's what I'm saying. This year's wasn't. So,
and he shrunk through 2 picks, awful picks, I may add. The
second one wasn't awful.
He threw it into double coverage.
Yeah, but you think
he's trying to force it.
No, think about what was happening in the moment, right? So did you see the coverage? They got Tampa 2 and Fred Warner's bailing straight down the field, right? So
and then he came.
Listen, just listen. So you've got with CD's running a drag with an option. It's an option drag where he can sit down or he can keep going. So it looked like he was going to keep going on the drag, and I think he kind of started to sit down. Fred Warner's bailing. 6'7" Eric Armstead is right here. Right? So Dak's line of vision is Fred Warner bailing, and he's throwing. He never saw Jimmy Ward sit in that zone. I'm just saying. I'm not
a shrinking moment. Like,
I am not
can't
one,
make that mistake in playoff football.
No, I am not one to make excuses and be like everyone's against Dak. But that one I saw more.
And then I'll also say this: egregious sack to take in that situation where you forced Mike McCarthy's hand to punt. Then the final thing I'll say, T.Y. Hilton. You got to hit T.Y. Hilton, walk-in touchdown.
I agree.
So.
I agree. Yeah.
That's where I'm at with the Cowboys right now. They have some soul searching to do in the offseason.
Absolutely.
Bills do too. A lot of teams
free
do.
Agents.
That's this time of year.
Yeah.
All right.
That was a long number one. Sorry, Kenny.
Number one. No, that was good. That was good. I enjoy hearing y'all talk football. It's a lot of fun. Second is this. Obviously, this hits home in Memphis. You know, the Memphis Grizzlies, NBA franchise. One of the best players in the game right now is Ja Morant. And one of the most loved Grizzlies is Dylan Brooks, and they were in LA this past week. And I know we're a little bit late on talking about this. We haven't obviously had a show since all that went down, but wanted to talk to you guys not just about the LA game, but about the sideline conflict, argument, whatever it was, between Shannon Sharpe of Fox Sports 1 and Dylan Brooks, and really the whole team. What are y'all's thoughts on that? And especially even today, Shannon Sharpe came out with an apology, but just kind of full scope of everything that went down. What are y'all's thoughts on that? So
I want to preface this by saying I think the apology was fine. I think he had a little bit of a backhanded comment about, well, it doesn't matter what Dylan Brooks says or said to me or what, you know. Of course it doesn't. You're a patron. You're there to spectate and watch the game. And that's what should have happened. But for him to go on the floor like that, he should know better. I've heard him talk about it on his show several times.
Funny. They were pulling the clips of him but 2 years ago.
He said, 2 years ago, he said it multiple times. Whenever anything happens like this, he comes up and says, "You're there to watch the game. It doesn't give you a right to yell at a player because you bought a $5,000 seat." He should take his own advice on that. And also, I just find it in weird taste for him to, I don't know if he had been drinking or what the situation was, but he needs to put himself in Dylan Brooks' shoes, right? He should know better than 99.9999999% of people that if a fan comes after you and says disrespectful things to you, you can respond. You feel like you could. It's okay for you to get back in that person's face, and for him to just get out of his character to do that in that situation, I thought was just poor taste.
Yeah, I don't have too much of an opinion on it. Honestly, I hate that all this kind of stuff gets so blown out of the water. Like, it was every single tweet on was it Friday night? Yeah, that was Friday night. Yeah. So every tweet Friday night and Saturday mornings about this, I'm like, this is so stupid.
And
why is this like front page sports news?
What's bothers him too is, like, a journalist, as a talker, you're not supposed to make yourself the news. And like Shannon,
I agree with
fell short there. He did apologize. I still want to keep saying that he did apologize. And the last thing too, LeBron coming out and saying, like, on Instagram, saying, like, I'll always support Shannon. LeBron, you kick people out of arenas like 5 times a year because of things they say to you.
Right.
Like, I mean, like, I'm always going to be a LeBron fan. I like LeBron. But, like, dude, I just think that's talking out of both sides of your mouth when you say, well, I'm always going to have his back.
Yeah.
Dude, you kick people out constantly for getting on you. And I don't know what they say. They may say worse things, but
yeah,
it's just sort of it just doesn't make sense.
Couldn't really care less, to be honest with you.
Okay.
But Shannon Sharpe is yoked out
Oh,
It's
that
a
dude's
big dude.
swole.
That is a-
And by the way, everybody making their comments on his cardigan, on his little sweater.
Fire
Thing
cardigan.
was
I loved it.
thing was icy. I don't know what people are
Yeah,
talking
he
about.
might have needed like 2 sizes bigger though.
Yeah.
No, he wants that tight stuff.
Oh, I
dude.
know he
Come on.
does. I know
He
he
benches
does.
445 like
Yeah.
3 times. Okay,
All right.
he's got to show it.
The real question though is, did Shannon Sharpe want that smoke with Steven Adams?
Well, Steven let the hair down.
Yeah.
I
Probably
think
not.
I don't know though. Shannon Sharp. I don't know. Man.
Shannon could put up a fight.
Man, he's 54 years old.
It
bro.
doesn't matter.
I don't know.
Doesn't
man.
matter.
Steven Adams versus Shannon Sharp. If we're setting a line right now, I think because of size and because of length, I think Shannon would be like a plus 120, but it would be close. It'd be tight.
You think it'd be that
It'd be
close?
tight.
I was thinking like plus 250.
No,
It's got to be plus 300, plus 350.
I mean, but who's slinging the fist better? I mean, I'd probably take Shannon. Like Steven's probably got a slower swing. He's less compact, so you don't know if the punches mean just as much.
I don't know, but I
So
can
I'd
tell
say
you.
plus 120,
I can tell you, we'll never know.
plus 120 for Steven Adams, minus 150. Or no, not for Steven Adams, for Shannon Sharp, minus 150 for Steven Adams. Take your pick.
There you go.
All right. At this point in the season, the Grizzlies are second in the Western Conference. I know Christian loves talking about NBA basketball. There's not a whole lot going on in sports, guys. Y'all spent 30 minutes talking about NFL. There's not much more to talk about.
No, Grizzlies pacing it right.
Grizzlies are they're doing it right. They're second in the Western Conference. The whole talk though has been about, could the Grizzlies make a transaction in this trade window that's going on right now, that's just started, to basically cement themselves as a contender for the NBA championship? Do you, and we'll go to Gabe here because Christian doesn't really care.
I can speak on things.
Do you think the Grizzlies will make a move, and who should they go after? What player should they go after that would help them in this final push towards the playoffs?
Don't make a move just to make a move. So I'll say that right now. I think what they have right now is enough to go into playoff basketball, at least compete. I don't know if they can win a championship necessarily. We'll see, though. I think the seasoning from last year's playoff run helps them right this second. And I think defensively, they're locked in at a point that they weren't locked in last year. So I think their team's a little better built and more locked in on that end to be good come NBA playoffs.
Yeah, because
I'll say this
Go ahead.
real
Sorry.
quick. If we're talking about making a move, and I have said this for going on 2 years now, I think a guy like OG Anunoby would be just an unreasonably good fit. A guy who's not going to take as many shots as Dillon Brooks. He's going to lock in on the defensive end just like Dillon Brooks. He can switch. He can do all these different things, but he's just a more efficient offensive player. And if you have to give up Dillon Brooks in a first-round pick, you have 5 first-round picks that you could potentially move. If you can get a guy like that, I say take that shot, because internal development is great. You can sit here and you can make all these draft picks and develop them the right way, but I feel like we've been shown throughout the years that maybe making that one more trade, maybe pulling the trigger on that, being more aggressive on the open market can help you, at least in your championship aspirations.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think if they do make a move, because we know the way their roster is assembled and the talent that they have, how good they can be and how good they are. So I think if you do go make a move, you go make a move for a better talent, if that makes sense. I don't think you just go get an old grizzled vet just for the playoff experience. I don't think you do that just to have another.
Don't give up assets for that.
No,
right?
absolutely not. Don't go get someone just because they give you more playoff experience.
Well, they're about to get that back though, Christian. They're about to get Danny Green back.
Right.
Potentially.
But you know that's
100%.
that's like always the narrative. Like if it's a
Yeah,
if
you
it's a
need more
younger
vets,
team,
right.
go get the veteran, go get the the older guy. And they have a couple of those guys with Steven Adams and Danny Green that have playoff experience. And like you said, this team from themselves the last year, they're fine.
They're fine.
I think that's an overrated thing.
But
like you got to have this team full of
You
veterans.
don't have
to,
to
be
go
good.
make a move, but I think if you have the right piece out there,
If you do
is
make-
OG Anunoby. That's a guy who I would love to see them have. Go make that move.
That's
if
interesting. That's interesting.
As long
But
as it's not a ridiculous asking
yeah,
price.
if you make a move, make a splash.
Yeah.
Is what I think.
So the
Yeah.
final question about that is, who are the untouchables on the Grizzlies? Like you don't trade them right now.
Ja,
Yeah.
Bane,
Jaren.
Jaren, generally speaking, unless you got something. I'd say Jaren.
Something absurd, yeah.
I'd say Jaren. But the touchables,
Everybody,
go ahead.
yeah.
Figure it out.
Yeah.
I think Dylan Brooks is very touchable.
Yeah.
And I think, and here's the thing about Dylan Brooks, a lot of people.
Okay, maybe don't say
well, pause.
Maybe don't say
big
that.
pause. But for Dylan Brooks, I feel like he is at times, if you see how the fan base talks about him, I feel like he's almost at times more respected outside of this market than he is in. What he does defensively night to night is not as appreciated because they see 4 for 17 and 4 for 20.
Agreed.
And I get that, but I think his value on the open market in a trade situation, what he would fetch as a free agent, I think you'd be surprised with how much people value him around the NBA.
Yep. All right.
I like it. Hey, boys, good job. That was the first edition of the Hot Three. That's something we might find a better name, to be honest.
The Hot Three. No, I like it. That's a Hot Three.
The Hot Three.
We'll figure it out. But yeah, as we get further into the seasons, there's going to be a lot of stuff happening in sports. So I think it's going to be exciting to hear y'all's input. So good job.
We shall see.
Thank you, sir.
We have anything else?
No, man.
We've exhausted all options at this point.
That's it.
All right. Well, we appreciate you guys for joining us this week. I'm going to try to get all my shout outs in here because every time I look at the end of the episode, I'm like, I forgot this or I forgot that. So
okay.
We thank you guys for watching or listening, YouTube, podcast, wherever you're catching us at. We appreciate it. So if you're watching on YouTube, subscribe, like this video, comment. We're fine with interacting, negative or positive. Doesn't matter to us. We got called couch potatoes this last week on YouTube. I don't know if you saw that, but that was pretty funny.
Right.
What do these two couch potatoes know? So that was good. That's comedy to me.
Thanks for the view.
Yeah. Doesn't offend us. If you're listening, subscribe, download the podcast.
I quite enjoy my couch.
I do too. Wherever you get your podcast, head over to bluffcitymedia.co. Check out all the stuff we got on the site, the podcast, the videos, the articles, everything's on there. If you want to check out the NIL fund, go over to bluffcitynil.com. You can check out some videos and some digital content over there as well. And follow the podcast on Instagram at On The Bluff Pod and follow us on Twitter at Bluff City Media. Thank you guys. We'll be back next week.
Thank you for listening to On The Bluff. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a rating and a comment wherever you download your podcasts. Head over to www.bluffcitynil.com, where you will find comprehensive coverage of Tiger athletics and how you can become a contributor. We'll see you back here next week.